to our scheduled first speech of the evening. Joe is a repair supervisor, now working at the path stations, keeping our elevators and escalators safe. He has started an inspection agency in New York and Florida and hopes to someday snowbird, which right now doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah, especially for that.
In Joe's Icebreaker speech, he said he was going to imitate President Bush. So if he forgot something or messes up, we wouldn't notice it. So now, Joe Kusnier.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, and honored guests Elise, Cheryl, and Rizwan.
Okay.
Tonight's a very special night for me. It's a night that I consider myself as being my initiation into a very special organization we call Toastmasters. In my Toastmaster speech, I would like to tell you a little bit about my childhood, about some of the accomplishments I've made in my life, where I am today, and what my goals are for the future. I was raised in a housing project in Yonkers, New York. I guess you might say by today's standards, I was in a pretty poor environment. My father worked in a factory. My mother stayed at home, raising myself, my older sister, and my brother. Our black and white television was always on the fritz. We didn't have a telephone, and we didn't own a car. And I can remember having dungarees with holes in my knees well before it was considered fashionable. Well, in spite of that, I could say I had a pretty happy childhood. Although I do remember one day, all my friends and their families were packing their car to go away on a picnic, and I stayed home alone. I felt so sorry for myself that I put my head in my hands and I cried. And I vowed on that day, at the age of 10 years old, that I would work very hard to get everything that I wanted in life. A car, a house, and possibly someday even become rich. Well, as time passed, I graduated high school. I went to work for the Otis Elevator Company in a factory, as my father and grandfather did before. I got married, and two of my great accomplishments were the sons that I brought into this world. My oldest son, Joe, who was a civil engineer, and my younger guy, Michael, who was an actor. While working in the Otis Elevator factory, I wound coils for the main machines that went into the World Trade Center. I worked there until about 1969. I left and I went into an organization called the Elevator Constructors Union, which put in and actually installed the machines and repaired the machines that I had built. I worked for Otis in the Bronx office and the Mid-Manhattan office, and I really never got a chance to go down to the downtown office where the World Trade Center was to see the machines that I built. Now, Otis had lost the maintenance contract in 1997 to another company, and at that point, I thought I'd never get a chance to see them. But one day in the year 2001, my supervisor asked me to go down to the Trade Center to do a field survey to recapture the units. He told me that the day I'd be going down for the survey would be Tuesday, September 11th, in the year 2001. I said, that's great. I'll be able to get a chance to go down into the high-rise and finally see the machines that I built. Well, about 7:30 that Tuesday morning, I got a call from my supervisor saying that that survey was pushed back to Thursday, September 13th. And that I was to stay at 787 7th Avenue, where I'd been working, and finish my job. And that's what I intended to do. Well, about an hour later, I heard the roar of the engines about 100 foot over the top of my building of the first plane that went into the World Trade Center. I remember standing on a rooftop like everyone else, looking downtown and watching the first building collapse. And I can't really tell you how it felt to look at that, knowing that I was supposed to be on the 110th floor of that morning in that building. I never asked why the survey was postponed. I just thank God that it was. A few months later, I was told that on top of the rubble, there was only a few recognizable items. One of them happened to be the 339 HT Otis elevator machine that was intact, one of the ones that I had built. I was told that the Smithsonian Institute wanted to take it, Otis wanted to take it. I don't know really where it ended up, but I know one thing. If I did find out where it was and I did go down to see it, it would be the first time that I've actually seen it since 1968, some 40 years later. Well, I've since left Otis Elevator to go to a smaller company. I've started my own inspection agency, which I hope will take off in 2009. I own a house, a townhouse in Florida. I have 2 cars and 2 wonderful children. About the only thing that didn't happen in my wish yet, since I was 10 years old, was that I become rich. But all I can say to that is, in some ways, I think I already am. Thank you.